Could Carnival Row be the next Game of Thrones? Step right up, step right up. Carnival Row is open, and this high-flying fantasy will make you forget all about that no-good Game of Thrones. Winter has come for the fantasy series. After 8 seasons of dire wolves and dragon eggs, HBO's beloved fantasy series aired its final episode back in April, leaving a big old Westeros-shaped hole in the hearts of genre fans everywhere. And the question of what show could ever fill that hole has lingered ever since. Now, some have speculated that Amazon's upcoming Lord of the Rings series might act as a worthy successor to the Iron Throne. But today at Comic-Con, a different Amazon series may have emerged as the true heir apparent. The turn-of-the-century fantasy fable Carnival Row took the stage today at Hall H, bringing along show creator Travis Beacham and stars Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne. And what they showed is enough to get any Game of Thrones fan excited for the show's premiere on August 30th, even if that may not seem immediately evident. For those who don't know, Carnival Row is the story of a Victorian-era city called the Burg, where humans and fantasy creatures coexist. Or at least they try to. In reality, the fairies, fauns, and other magical citizens are feared by their human counterparts and forced to live in a segregated section of the city called Carnival Row. At the panel, we were shown 2 different trailers, each highlighting one of the show's main characters, Rycroft, a police officer played by Orlando Bloom, who wants to protect the magical creatures from their oppressors, and Vignette Stonemoss, a fairy played by Cara Delevingne, who wants to take her people's fight for freedom into her own hands. The thing we see in both trailers is that these two fall into an interspecies love affair, and that this relationship is tested when the city is rocked by rising tensions and a series of unsolved murders. Now, like we said, all that may not sound exactly like the next Game of Thrones. Carnival Row is leaning into different fantasy tropes than GOT. We never saw things like fairies or centaurs popping up in the Seven Kingdoms. Similarly, if dragons or direwolves are anywhere to be found in Carnival Row, we haven't seen them yet. Also, Carnival Row appears to be a mystery show with the murders driving their central plot, while Game of Thrones was ultimately more of a political drama. But with those surface differences aside, there's actually a lot of ways in which they link up. For one thing, just like Game of Thrones, Carnival Row has a truly epic amount of backstory fueling it. That may seem unlikely since this is a brand new show, not one based on a series of best-selling novels. But in fact, creator Travis Beacham first wrote this idea as a screenplay way back in 2005. Since then, it's been kicking around Hollywood in one form or another, coming close to getting made several times. And during that whole time, Beacham was further fleshing out his ideas for his world, its history, and its people, until he had enough to inspire entire seasons of television, not just one movie. Fans who got caught up trying to figure out the lineage of Jon Snow or the origin of the White Walkers should also have a blast playing fantasy historian with Carnival Row. Also, like Game of Thrones, Carnival Row seems to be predicated on the idea of what happens when you introduce real-world consequences to the realm of fantasy. GOT married medieval sword and sorcery epics with the realities of what it was like to live in medieval society. Carnival Row is basically doing the same thing, but moving everything up a few hundred years to the time of the Industrial Revolution. Just from watching the 2 trailers, you can see that the show is tackling subjects like the oppression of minorities, the overcrowding of cities, and the exploitation of workers in urban environments. And finally, if the real reason you miss Game of Thrones is just because you still need a high fantasy fest in your life, don't worry, pervs. This show has got you covered. It looks like things get just as sexy on Carnival Row as in the Seven Kingdoms, and honestly, we're way more into fairy human hookups than GOT's constant incest palooza. But what do you folks all think? Does this get you excited for Carnival Row? Do you think it could ever take the place of Game of Thrones? And why do you think it's taken Orlando Bloom so long to return to our hearts? Let's discuss. Thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, why not give us a like and subscribe? If you want to get notified every time we go live with a show or drop a new video, feel free to mash that little bell so you can be up to date on all the latest theories, news, and rumors in the pop culture world.